Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Browne here with you on this Wednesday, man. Wild Wednesday roundtable, college football, basketball, baseball, because it's all happening, as they say at the general store in Falls River, Arkansas. It's all happening simultaneously at the same time. So who better than to get us kicked off than Dudley Dawson, hogville.net, followed by Mitch Davis, our roving correspondent for the Sidelines team, is up in Nashville for the SEC basketball tournament. From start to finish, he will be attending every game, every press conference, paying attention to every detail. He's like an auditor from an accounting firm coming in to audit your business. We all love that. Hour number 2, Big Ben Troupe joins us from ESPN Coastal down in Savannah, Georgia. Matt Dean, the coach, checks in from over in Memphis at Rhodes College, basketball as well. And then Coach John Brady will join us in the final segment talking about this SEC basketball tournament. He coached in it in his 11 years at LSU. Remember, he followed the legend Dale Browne, who, if anybody on the show today can tell me where Dale Browne is from, I will get you a box of fluorescent bulbs and some sponges and have them shipped to you. But if you can guess where Dale Browne is from without Googling, of course, that's not really fair, and it makes it hard to play trivia. But this is Sidelines Wednesday. We're here 2 hours every Monday through Saturday, 50 hours a month of content. So do us a favor, hit that orange Patreon button, tap on it. So easy. Uncle Jed, Jethro Bodine, and my father all did it in the last 72 hours. So easy. I even did it. Join IPTAM. I pay $10 a month so we can do all the great things we're doing to get this show growing, and we're blessed to have great listeners. We talk about sports. That's what we do. That's who we are. Follow us on Twitter, please, at Sidelines_live. Retweet when we put out the good stuff. Again, we stay focused on sports. We don't get in the gutter of politics. We're your safe space from all that crap, okay? So check us out. Dudley Dawson, born and raised in Newport, Arkansas, but really in the suburb of Balch. 36 years. He's been a great writer, true grit journalist. You ask him a question, he's going to give you an answer. Got a text from him last night. Really cool. They had a gathering with Coach Sam Pittman before spring practice starts. Hold on a second, Dudley. Tell me something. A coach actually wanted to get together with y'all. That's why I love Sam Pittman. I may be wrong, but he seems like he'd be a lot of fun. And regardless, especially after a big win, what does Coach Sam Pittman like to say? Well, I think I'm going to just go on home and take it away.
Yeah, he's been really good in terms of, having press conferences and meeting with us and, sharing his ideas. Back when Bobby Petrino was here, we got 8 minutes. That was it. It was very well timed, and so you better get your questions in during that 8 minutes. But Coach Pittman, I think Coach Pittman's excited. He's got a bunch of new coaches, a bunch of new players, 31 new players so far between the recruits and between the high school signees and the portal transfers. So it's going to be much more interesting spring than a lot of times because there's going to be so many more new faces.
Yeah. Can you break that down for us on the 31 new players? Because we know that you can sign 25, but sometimes people are signing half that 25 out of the portal and half of them out of high school. And then 40 to 50% or more might enroll early in January.
22 were in the regular signing class.
Okay.
You know, that some came from the portal during that time, but you know, they're high school kids and all that. And then 8 more have been added, 9 more have been added since the signing period has been over with. All, you know, coming from the transfer portal, including a 5-star defensive back who played for Georgia and was here this weekend. He won't be here until June in terms of, you know, being able to practice with them. But, you know, that is another nice pickup for him. They've really added to the, you know, to the defensive backs, which is an area that really needed to be, you know, picked up. But Jaheim Singletary is his name from Georgia, 6'2", 170 pounds. So they're feeling really good about, you know, what they've got in the portal. And, you know, as I always say, we'll see how it plays itself out. But again, new coaches, new players, you had to do something because it didn't work as well as you would like for it to last year. And one thing he made clear yesterday was there will be 4 big defensive linemen down on with their hands, you know, down on the ground this year. Something that you know, they didn't get to do a lot of last year, but it feels like they had to add to the defensive line and did so in, you know, recruiting.
Well, that goes in line with, you know, the coaches you brought in, Travis Williams, Marcus Woodson. Marcus is, you're going to see this. He is one of the elite defensive back coaches around. Great defensive mind. Everywhere he goes, his defensive backs are out front of the defense. You're going to that. But again, I like, if you're an Arkansas fan, you've got to love hearing about the 4 big defensive linemen. You know, if you can go 2 and 3 deep, Dudley, on the front 7, you got a chance to win every game that you play. Because Arkansas last year, they were getting blown out. I mean, they were in just about every game. Whereas the year before, they won the close games. They didn't win them this past year. And hey, if KJ Jefferson, with Dan Enos coaching him now, doesn't run the ball and get banged up so much, he may be good to go in all 12 regular season games. I think that would be a ginormous difference on the upside.
Yeah, and that was another thing talked about. Obviously, Dan Enos coming in here as the new offensive coordinator after Kendall Browse had been here for 3 years. Coach Pittman noted that KJ thinks that not only can Coach Dan Enos make him a better quarterback at Arkansas, but make him a better draft prospect. And, you know, that's important to the kids.
Yeah.
And the mindset, the mental mindset, as well as the physical makeup is, you know, I think that's going to help out. And you're right. If he stays on the field, he's got a chance to put up really big numbers, especially with the running backs and wide receivers he has now. Yeah.
I mean, he's such a he's what does he weigh? 230? What do we think?
You know, I think at times he's been biscuit under 250.
Yeah.
And at a time he's been 230, but I think he floats in that let's say he floats in that 238 to 245 range.
Yeah. But he's amazing. He's such an athlete. I mean, you look at some of the times it looks like he's sacked and he gets out of it because he's so strong. But I just think Dan Enos is going to do wonders. And I'm with you. Just, is he leaving? Is he staying? Stuff about Kendall Browse, nothing against him, but stuff gets to be just, it'll drive you crazy after a while. But Dan Enos, I think, is going to do really well. He's been there before, but he's done well everywhere he's been. And also, I want to ask you about the wide receiver position, because in the league, the SEC, everybody wants to throw the ball. You still got to be able to run it, but you need some big, tall receivers. Talk about the receiver room, the measurables on them. Are you excited about this group?
Yeah, they, you know, I don't think there's any doubt that they brought in the tallest wide receiving crew recruit, 6'6", 6'5", 6'4", Guys brought in speedsters with size. You have about 5 guys returning from last year, including Isaiah Santana, who I think will be a star this year. Had some injuries last year with a former high school star here in Fayetteville, speedster. So they're, Andrew Armstrong, Tesla, other guys that they brought in, they just feel like that they're going to have a lot more options in games than they did last year in terms of the number of receivers they can count on. They certainly had a few that were excited. But Jaden Wilson is a returnee that Coach Pittman mentioned yesterday, has been outstanding in the pre-workouts, or whatever we call them these days, where they just toss the ball around, and has had a big commitment in the weight room. So, they're going to have enough weapons. The big key, obviously, is, and we've talked about this on the show many times, the offensive line. They were very experienced last year. Started off the year really good. It, for whatever reason, didn't work starting in mid-season. I don't want to say they were tricked, but they certainly were out-schemed at times. Now you have you brought in Josh Browne from Florida. You have some returnees that were very young, very big guys. I would say more flexible, more athletic. How's this line going to mesh together? We know that experience was there last year, but it just wasn't getting done toward the end. And I think that, from what I understand, Coach Pittman and Coach Kennedy are excited about the ceiling that these guys have.
Yeah. Well, that is the hardest position, it seems like, in today's world to find, is offensive linemen, because so much of the emphasis in the summer camps is 7-on-7. It's skill players. And if you've got someone, which you do with Sam Pittman, who is an offensive line coach, that's what he's always been. He's head coach now, but he's always going to have some influence. That's pretty obvious, because he always has a solid unit out there. Dudley, I took some notes, and I was going to run this by you, about some of the rule changes. And we're going to get Steve Shaw on the show. I need to get a hold of him and get him on maybe later this week or next week, the coordinator of NCAA officials. They just had their rules committee meeting this past Friday and over the weekend with up in Indianapolis. But the NCAA study on the 22 season determined running the clock after incompletions could eliminate at least 15 plays per college game, plus a few more on first downs. Steve Shaw, who we just mentioned, says officials have become so good at spotting the ball quickly for up-tempo offenses that the impact would be minimal, but that would also make the impact after incompletions even greater. So let's tackle that one first. As they say up in Hardy and Pocahontas and M. Bowden and Ravenden, are you for it or are you against it?
I'm against it. I just don't see why we've got to make so many changes. If you think a football game is too long, you're not going to it anyway. If you're going to a football game, that's, you're there for a reason. And why in the world would we change up such a big rule for 15 plays? I think you said that's an integral part of the game, is being able to stop the clock on incompletions. I think the philosophy toward the end of the ball game, where you run the football to keep the clock going, just would change so many things. This is another deal where I believe the term is Gen X or whatever. We're trying to bring in younger fans, and we're trying to do things that we think they would like. They're going to come to the football game or not. I just don't see a reason to change up the rules so much. And this certainly, an incomplete pass, what's next? If you get out of bounds, they're not going to stop the clock?
Yeah. Well, and I think, obviously, like my kids are 22 to 34. They go to the game and they stay the full 60 because they grew up going to games with me. But I don't understand these people that they're ready to leave when they get there. You remember the Seinfeld episode? He's going, what is it about everybody today? They talk about, when are we going? When are we going to get there? What time? I'm all okay. When are we going? As soon as they get there, they go, okay, when are we leaving? You stay. Why do you want to rush out? And then those fans who fold their arms and pout and scowl when things aren't going well. Now, how's that helping the team? I mean, those are the same people. I mean, you're trying. I will say this: almost half the people at the games are women. We got men, we got women. There's nothing in between. We got dogs, we got cats, we got birds, we got crocodiles. Nothing in between. But sometimes they are long. The rain delays. If there's a lightning strike within 8 miles, you got a 30-minute delay. Everybody's got to, clear the stadium. There's a lot of things that we didn't used to do. Safety, I understand, it's huge. All right, let's go to the next one. College halftimes are 8 minutes longer than NFL halftimes because of the marching bands. So what do you want to do? You want to speed the game up? You get rid of marching bands, which my wife Audrey was in the band in middle school, and she played the snare drum. She's very proud of it. But do you just put a CD in there at halftime on the PA system of great music? What about that? I mean, that's the kind of stuff. But as Tony Barnhart said, you would ignite another war if you tried to get rid of the marching bands, wouldn't you? Absolutely.
My son, who went on to have a musical career as an agent, was in the band, and I've always enjoyed the halftime. And again, I just don't get it. There's a great.
Dudley, hold that thought. We're going to take a break because you're right. Think about how many rock stars were in high school bands right after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, we are with Dudley, Dawson, and Dudley. Before we went to the break, talking about the marching bands. I mean, it's just something. They are incredible, but I really think it's cool when you see somebody from the Who, Led Zeppelin, Meatloaf. I mean, that guy must have been in theater. He was so incredibly talented. I don't know what he was, but if you were to do that, I think you would start the decline of college football. It's just part of the culture. It's in the DNA.
There's a segment of the audience that shows up for that. In high school and college, and you want a war. Try to take that out. And they'll come at you with their instruments, and that'll be the parents and the participants. Again, I think that's part of the pageantry of high school athletics and college football. And you want to cut out 8 minutes, cut out replay reviews.
Yeah,
cut the number of those down.
Yeah. Do you catch yourself now? I'm seriously asking you, when you go to a high school football game, after a big play, you look up for the jumbotron to play it again?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Still do. And there are a lot of plays in high school that are as important. And, with the angles, you don't have the angles in high school games that you do in college with cameras and all that. So, again, why change so much?
Yeah, I'm with you. Interesting thing too, from one of our listeners, Shoney down in Valdosta, Georgia, said tough to compete with the Tuscaloosa Tailgaters at 715 West Magnolia. That's down at Auburn at the Sigma Newhouse. They put on an incredible tailgate spread, and then better food and drinks. That's the next question. The food inside of the football stadiums is comparable to what you'd get in a soup kitchen or something like that. In a lot of cases, they try to make it better, but I think if you had better food, lower prices, dollar bottles of water, and more bathrooms, I don't think people would complain, would they? As much.
Yeah, those are all excellent items. When they started selling beer and wine and alcohol, there was a first of all, there was not as many people hiding stuff to bring it in. As it had been. And second of all, I think it helped revenue and brought some people in who there are a lot of people who like to just go somewhere to have a good time, whether it's a bar, a football game, or church.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, and you always wonder, one of the great questions, what do they do with all the liquor bottles that they confiscate from students and fans during the game? Do they have a big party after the game? We don't know that, do we?
Yeah, I mean, the people who clean up after, they might, except on really late night games, might have some fun with that.
Yeah, they do. Here's another one interesting thing. Of the top 50 quarterbacks who signed with Division I schools between 2017 and 2020, more than 70% of them have already transferred. I think the statistic I'd always hung my hat on prior to the portal coming in October 15th of 2018 was 42% of quarterbacks would transfer, along the way. Interesting right there. But you look at Georgia, they've got Brock Vandegrift, Gunnar Stockton. This is they've got three guys in there. One of them's going to be the star. But if you're the quarterback there at Arkansas, whatever, or you're the number 2 quarterback, you're only one play away from playing. You go to another school, you got to learn a whole new system. What do you think about a way to keep guys from transferring? Don't name a starter till fall.
That's done in some cases. I think kids are too soft and, need to have the fortitude to stay and fight things out. I mean, just simply doing it after 1 year, I think is probably a bad rule. The transfer portal, I think overall is a good thing, but there are too many rules there that allow you to just jump right into another school. I think there should be some hoops for you to do that. But yeah, I just think that I'm not surprised at the percentages because, over the course of time, a kid can probably transfer, but the shape, we talked about it before on the show, JT Daniels, what is he on his 6th school now in 6 years, it seems like. And
well, you know what his name stands for, don't you? JT? Just transferred.
Yeah. Yeah. But that, I mean, I just think that there was a commitment back in the day to staying and learning. And I've always said that unless you're an absolutely fantastic prospect, the thought of playing as a starter in an SEC offense your first year is a reach anyway. Yeah,
it absolutely is. And, I just think about the way anything is. You've ever killed a turkey, like my good friend Tom in the background here. It takes tremendous patience and time. And if turkeys could smell the way they can see and hear, I don't think people would ever kill them. But you've got to be patient, got to be diligent, and that's the key. And you look at college, you remember what Dan Enos did with the quarterbacks at Arkansas. There wasn't a lot of optimism, and he turned Brandon Allen into a 3,500-yard passer.
Backup quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow goes down. He's the guy and has continued to stay in the NFL. He's about got his pension now. Yeah. So, that is one of his major achievements.
Yeah. Well, you do 5 years in the NFL, Dudley, you get your pension. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's fully vested or some of those terms that you guys know after 10. So,
okay. So you stay in 5, you're eligible for the pension, and after 10, because like the state of Alabama, you'll see people will coach there, get their 25 years in to get that pension, and I believe it's you get 70% of your 3 best years earning income while you were there in 25, 30, 40 years. So you'll see coaches bounce to another state. I think Jamie Dubose did that out of Phoenix City Central, went to Georgia. But all right, Mitch Davis is going to join us here in just a minute. And Dudley, hang on with us if you can, because Mitch is up at the SEC tournament. Are you there yet, or are you traveling on? I must be traveling on. Speaking of that, Dudley, take your hat off and bow. We lost one of the last surviving member, Gary Rosington, of Leonard Skinner. Will there ever be another band as good as Leonard Skinner? At least an American band, but I put them globally up there with Led Zeppelin, The Who, the Rolling Stones. It all began with the Yardbirds, but where do you rank them?
I mean, they're near the top. Obviously, it's a different group of guys than it first started for a variety of reasons. But, there is a reason that when you're at a concert or you're at some place, people yell out, play Freebird. No matter if you're at a country concert or whatever. That's an iconic band. Obviously, got to see them many times in many different ideations. So, hated to hear that, but obviously he had some health issues here lately. Not that those guys lived hard or anything.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. Well, there's one left, but he wasn't the original drummer, Artemis Pyle. And he will occasionally, and not a few months ago, I think was at Lafayette's Music Room in Memphis, in Overton Square, Artemis Pyle. But just absolutely incredible. Dudley, I want to talk basketball with you. Basketball Hogs. Mitch has logged in the last 4.5 years close to 400 basketball games he's attended, and football games and baseball games. But Mitch Davis, want to introduce you to 36-year True Grit journalist, one of my favorite ever. We got lucky and got introduced to him by Franz Beard of GatorbaitMedia.com. He said, you need to get that guy on your show. Along with Mary and my wife, Audrey, it's up there with those greatest decisions we've made. But say hello to Dudley Dawson, hogville.net, Mitch Davis. Y'all say hello to one another. And let's talk some string music from downtown Nashville, Tennessee. Mitch, you're too young to remember it, but who said that, Dudley?
Joe D.
That's right.
Rob, Dudley. Rob, thank you so much for having me on. Dudley, it's nice to meet you. Don't know if you're going to be in Nashville, but if you are, I'd love to shake your hand and maybe have you on my show. We'll be broadcasting from SEC Fanfare all weekend. Should be a lot of fun.
I got baseball here this weekend, so I
forgot about that. I will have to break it to you, Dudley. I hate to start this thing off, but I'm a Kentucky fan by birth, so I had to bring that up just as soon as we get off into the gate here.
That's cool. I'm Cowboys, Cardinals, and Celtics. That's where I land.
Hey,
not really a college fan per se.
Yeah, and it's fun. And I got to say this, Dudley. Mitch is covers Memphis, Kentucky. He's part of our Sidelines team. It's because every time you get up to this mic, I'll always go back to, the great speeches. When Pat Sullivan won the Heisman Trophy in 1971, when he stood up there at the podium, he said, I'm sure there are many others who deserve this award much more than I do, but I can assure you from the bottom of my heart, none will appreciate it more, because every time you go out on the field, it's not just one, it's an entire group. And he thanked his coaches, his teammates, his family, everybody that had helped him along the way. And that's what Sidelines is. And Mitch is going to be calling in every day, StreamYarding in, of course, from Nashville. But Dudley, you're going to be covering baseball. Hogville.net is everywhere. Mitch, you hit baseball games, basketball. You'll drop and do a spring practice, knock down some good old Kentucky bourbon along the way while you're not driving, of course. But Dudley, let me ask you this, and then I'm going to throw it to you and then Mitch. Last Saturday, I was watching SEC Network, after I'd watched Arkansas and Kentucky play. And Pat Bradley was saying, Arkansas, what the problem was, they were 2 of 10 on layups. Even I can do that math. 10%, the shooter. But I think about that, 2 of 10, but those aren't just simple layups. He's talking about putbacks up there under the rim. But Arkansas is a team, in my opinion, Dudley, that is so close. They're so young. You think they can put it together against Auburn? Because Auburn's playing better, but there's still what can you change about your team this late in the season?
Well, first of all, it was 2 of 20. It was even worse than thought. And that when you can't shoot from outside and you're 2 of 20 on layups and dunks, because they did miss a few dunks in there as well, you're just not going to have the success that you need to have. I think we can both say that Auburn and Arkansas have underachieved on what we thought they would accomplish this year. Certainly Arkansas at 8-10 was something that, you wouldn't have thought. There were people around here at least thinking they were going to get to a third straight Elite Eight and maybe had a chance to get to the Final Four, whether it's outside shooting, whether it's chemistry issues, whether it's just, a couple of injuries that they've had along the way. It just hadn't worked out. And you can see that Eric Musselman, who's, been a great coach since he's been here, has been thoroughly frustrated and doesn't have the sheer joy on the sidelines that he's had the last few years. It's been tough. Sometimes I guess it's trying to put, what is that saying, a square peg in a round hole or something, and it just hadn't worked. So that's the first thing I want to state, that both of these teams have underachieved, certainly Arkansas to a more extent. That said, they have a lot of talent there. If you hit a few outside shots, if you have a guy like Devo Davis who can be the best player on both teams at some points, if his play for Arkansas is better than some of his other decisions, then I think they have a chance. Should be a really good, tournament in terms of, I don't think there is, Alabama obviously has been the best team throughout the year, but my goodness, they've had things swirling around them, for the past month or so. So I'm looking forward to watching the tournament. Arkansas is, last week I was reading stories about how Arkansas was the team that no one wanted to play in the tournament. And this week I'm reading stories from national writers about how the only reason they're getting in is because of the net ranking. That certainly the last 10 games and certainly the last 3 haven't given you a great deal of confidence that they're going to win the first round SEC game, much less a first round NCAA game.
Yeah. Mitch Davis, jump in here on top of what Dudley just said, because he's on a roll. He's right.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point. Yesterday I was sitting there writing a Mississippi State basketball article. Of course, living in Mississippi and covering Mississippi State and Ole Miss, you get to see a lot of the teams. And Mississippi State, to me, mirrors Arkansas. I mean, when you look at both their seasons, you look at the expectations coming into the season, neither one of them have, lived up to the hype. And both of them started off slow. They've had good slumps. They've had great slumps, and they had terrible slumps. And it's all been in stride. And, coming into this SEC tournament, I look at Arkansas and Mississippi State the same way. As these two teams could win the SEC tournament, or they could be bounced in the first round by Florida and Auburn. Really, who knows? And, honestly, when you look at the NCAA tournament picture, both teams are in the tournament as of right now, but there's still a lot of wiggle room that Mississippi State and Arkansas can't afford to lose on Thursday of the SEC tournament if they want to get into the NCAA tournament.
And I talked about it on the show, I guess a week, maybe 2 weeks ago. The body language, you can just tell when these guys feel good about themselves and when they don't. And usually it's after a really good first half, and then Arkansas's second halves have not been anywhere near what they need to be. They've had plenty of leads during first half of games and have just let them go down the stretch. Because as I was saying on the show yesterday, they're just not mentally or physically tough enough. Back in the day during Arkansas games or NBA games or any others, if somebody kept going down the lane scoring, somebody's going to get laid out by somebody else. And this year, if you wanted to drive to the hoop against Arkansas, you did it, and you kept doing it.
Dudley, sometimes you'll see it where a team, they're afraid of getting called for fouls, and you let a guy will just drive a 5'9" point guard right up the lane and lay it in. But I look at Arkansas, Eddie Sutton, Nolan Richardson, that 40 minutes of hell. That's what I think basketball is all about. You think about Celtics and the Lakers, Cornbread Maxwell, or Larry Parrish, Kevin McHale, Larry Bird. You think those guys got in a couple of brawls? I mean, who do you want as a teammate? Those guys or some snowflake?
Yeah, you mentioned 5'9". That's exactly how tall I am. Or how tall
I am too.
Maybe I'm shrinking now, but back when I played with Charles Valentine at Newport, he was 6'6", 6'7". He didn't need my help.
Hold that thought. Hold it. Take a quick break. We're going to come right back. I want to hear this more after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Before the break, you were telling a story. I want to hear the rest of this.
Well, I played high school basketball with Charles Valentine, who played up here at Arkansas, was drafted in the NBA. Big achievement was hitting the shot against North Carolina on February 12th, 1984, to take down Michael Jordan. And Theo Young, who was a tight end here at Arkansas, went on to play in the NFL. And they both, one was 6'7", the other one's 6'4", 6'5". They didn't need any help physical wise, but if you hit them, you had to deal with 5'9" me, which, basically, wasn't a physical challenge for you, but it was a mental challenge. And that's the way you took care of teammates back in the day. And I just hadn't seen that out of the Arkansas team this year. Hadn't seen it out of a lot of teams. And those teams are usually the ones that don't basically fulfill the hype that, was brought in. You've got to be as mentally tough as you are physically tough, or as talented to be able to achieve what you need to achieve. There's a lot more that goes into it than just putting the ball in the hoop.
Yeah, it really does. And Mitch, talking about what he just said, now I want to switch, get your thoughts. Kentucky's won 5 of the last 6. Early in the season, it was pointed out to me that this is one of the more experienced and older veteran teams for John Calipari that he's had, because we've become accustomed to the one and dones. Arkansas's got 4 freshmen that are playing a lot. 2 of them could easily go in the first round of the NBA draft. Oscar Tshiebwe came back. There were people that were saying a month ago, 6 weeks ago, he shouldn't have done that. He should have gone while he was hot last year when he was the National Player of the Year in college basketball. Something happened, and again, they're 5 of the last 6 they've won, and you win in Fayetteville like they did. That's big. What's your gut feeling on the Cats? Is it going to become Catville instead of Nashville?
Rob, the thing about it is, and I've listened to Matt Jones, Kentucky Sports Radio, and going to actually have him on my show this week. And one thing about Kentucky is they're so inconsistent. They're so hard to predict. This is a Kentucky team where if you go in the SEC tournament, you're confident after the Arkansas win on Saturday, but then you look at your side of the bracket, you got a team that beat you last Wednesday night in Vanderbilt. This Kentucky team is a very inconsistent team. They've got a lot of guys out. They don't know if Xavier Wheeler is going to play. They don't know if C.J. Frederick's going to play. They don't know if Cason Wallace is going to play. They don't have a point guard right now. Cason Wallace has got to come back for Kentucky to have a point guard. It's going to be interesting to see because I think the side of the bracket, you got some hot teams right now. Texas A&M, Vandy's fighting for their life. They're listed as the next 4 out of the NCAA tournament, according to Joe Lunardi. Should be a really interesting thing for Kentucky, and it's so hard to put a pin on Kentucky and say, hey, this is a team that's going to win the SEC tournament, or hey, this is a team that's going to make a Final Four run, because we don't know. This is a team that has a lot of injuries, that a lot of unknown, and we just don't know what's going to happen with this Kentucky team. And
I think Coach Cal's done a really good job since Arkansas beat them at Rupp Arena at getting his team to the finish line. Obviously, Oscar Tshiebwe shouldn't have finished that game here at Arkansas with the elbow that he threw. The other way around, then Coach Cal is yelling at, that you should have tossed the Arkansas player out. But he is certainly a physical player, and he's back in form now. I don't think he should have come out last year. Yeah, you were the player of the year, but you would have went in the late second round from all of indications. He probably will go a little bit higher than that this year, and he made some decent money on NIL this year, from what I understand. So, that was probably better for him than playing in the G League.
Well, let me throw this one at both of y'all, because both of you are great basketball minds. It's been said, Jason Caldwell, our good friend from inside the Auburn Tigers, said a few weeks ago that, go back 15, 20 years. And Mitch, you're a basketball historian. Dudley, you are. 15, 20 years ago, there were 35 or 40 guys like Oscar Tshiebwe around the country who got a bunch of rebounds and a bunch of points. Dennis Rodman, he's weirder than a $3 bill, but God, he was a great basketball player, great teammate, great rebounder. But he's laughing all the way to the bank. But now there's a handful of guys like that. That's what's so hard to find. And Oscar Tshiebwe is just an old school basketball guy. Isn't he a lot of fun to watch?
He is, Robin. One thing, I think I said this on the show last year, a player that, I really enjoyed watching over the last couple of years, now that he's in the NBA now, is Luka Garza from the University of Iowa. That was a ball player right there. That boy could rebound, he could shoot. He was a ball player. He's going to do well in the pros. Oscar Tshiebwe is another one of those guys that I've gotten to cover, that I've gotten to be around a little bit. Oscar's just such a good kid, and, he's a great basketball player. But what makes Oscar different from everybody else is how he embraces the community and how he uses his faith to be a beacon of light to a lot of these young kids.
Yeah.
He spoke at a church in Lexington, Kentucky, not long ago, but a month or two ago, and shared his testimony, shared about coming to America and about, coming from impoverishment and covering from a background that doesn't believe in God. And, he's just such a good person that, that's what makes you love him, and that's the thing that I think in the NIL era now that we kind of lose track of, is getting to know these players. And, Kentucky has had the privilege of getting to know Oscar Tshiebwe this season. He came back, and Kentucky fans have fallen even in more love with him. And, he's just such a good person. He reminds me a lot of personality-wise of Cameron Mills, Jeff Shepard, two Kentucky boys who changed the program back in the 90s for the University of Kentucky. Oscar Tshiebwe has that same kind of impact. And, obviously the record does not show it. Kentucky has struggled with injuries all season. But overall, Matt Jones said it best on KSR. Overall, with what Calipari and this program has had to deal with this season, this has been a successful season in terms of, hey, this is what we've had to overcome. This is the adversity. And Oscar Tshiebwe has been on the forefront of that.
Well, this just in from Maury Gaston, the legend of Velma Goodgame. That was his legendary English teacher in Sylacauga High School in Alabama. It's Tshiebwe. The T is silent, isn't it? Can you confirm that? Okay, just giving you. It just reminds me of a world history class I took in school at Auburn. And this big old guy, nobody laughed at him because he was about 6'5", 300, but he wore overalls half the time to school in college. We were talking about China one time, and he said, "Now, was Mayo to Z Tung from the Yang to Z River?" And everybody looked around like, next. Dudley, go take over from here. But I'm with Mitch. what I just heard you say about Oscar Shibwe, he's from Nigeria, I believe. I mean, yeah. And yeah, he got a little bit riled up the other day in the game, but he came back. And Dudley, you think about Nick Smith Jr., out of Little Rock, or right around Little Rock. He's been catching hell because why isn't he playing out there? This kid, from everybody that I've talked to, is a wonderful kid from a really wonderful family. Loves Arkansas, but and I know, hey, if he's offered the kind of money he might get, the scouts have watched him probably since middle school or high school. But what about some of these Arkansas guys? We don't know that much about them, but you do.
Well, I would think that if you are about to come into generational wealth, as Nick and Anthony Black are, that, your focus is on that a little bit. The worst term I've heard lately is load management. I don't know how much of that, was a deal here with Nick. As you said, Nick's been a great kid for me, and he's done a lot of good things. Arkansas fans who wanted to see him play have acted like little spoiled brats at times when he didn't, worrying about what was best for them, not worrying about what was best for the kid. But I do think that it is hard to be totally committed to something when the pot of gold is right around the corner. I would really like someday to wake up, call into my boss and say, hey, kind of mentally out there, I'm going to take a load management day. Yeah, I know that the Final Four is coming up and Super Bowl and all that, but I need a day. And so let's just call it a load management day. If I did that, I'd be looking for another job. So.
Yeah, well, and you know what? We were talking, and Mitch is more like we are, Dudley. He's not a snowflake, I can assure you. This is something that we had Coach John Brady on, and Coach Brady will be on in the second hour. But we were talking about the toughness of kids today, saying, this guy's a lottery pick, or this one is, or this one isn't. And he goes, I've coached a lottery pick or two in my day at Samford and LSU and Arkansas State. So these kids are, because I said, they talk about the grind. They're only playing 2 games a week. And he goes, yeah, and they want to go to the NBA. They're going to play 3 or 4. And I said, maybe 5. Well, here's Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley is, he's very shy about coming out with his opinion of things. And I remember when I was at Auburn, Dudley and Mitch, a lot of my friends that were Sigma Chi's from Nashville, there was a group of them, Rob Crockett and Andy Swanson and all, they would tutor Charles. And he had an economics class, and they were like, Charles, you've been here 3 years. You're going to be your own economy. And look what's happened with him. But here's Charles talking about the kids today. Wait a minute. You're going to make $70 million and you can't play basketball 3 or 4 days a week? They fly private. They got the best medical staff ever created. People working the steel mill here in Birmingham every day. I'm pretty sure they tired too, but they go to work every day. I mean, Mitch, again, Dudley, Mitch is a tough ass kid. I got to know him. He's been with us from the beginning. Our mutual friend, Gordon Ford, who's recovering from surgery. I talked to Gordon last night. Looking forward to getting him back on the show. But Dudley, you need to write a book because you are really good at pointing out things that I think a lot of people skip over, as are you, Mitch. And you talked about Oscar Shibwe. You talked about Anthony Black. You talked about Nick Smith. It's the stories off the court that we need more of. And y'all go get the stories. Dudley, Mitch, you ready for this? Dudley's goal this past year was to go to every high school in the state of Arkansas and attend a football game. There are 200 schools in state that play football. All right, Dudley, can we get a number on how many football and now basketball and now high school baseball games you've hit since late August?
Well, that was a tremendous idea that I had. Some other work has gotten in the way, but now it's at least a 5-year goal. But we are approaching 100. So yeah, I got to be honest. I didn't realize that there were still so many schools out there. I thought there was consolidation. We'd narrowed it down a lot, but there still is a lot more out there than I thought. But I am continuing to my quest to get around to see everybody. And I tell you what, even there's probably half of them that definitely half of them I've talked to this year. I've not tried to do a story on anybody twice. I've tried to do, at least a story on somebody once, but not do it twice. Let's do a story on Mount Enola instead of two stories on Conway, something like that. Well,
and I love that because you and I grew up reading the paper. My 94-year-old dad listening right now and my 88-year-old mother, they want that paper in their hands every day. Mitch, you're getting better as a writer. And I love to read what you say because it's to the point. You're descriptive. But Dudley, wouldn't you think just because I would love for you and Mitch to get hooked up together, because I try to say this to every True Grit journalist we have on this show, whether it's you, Franz Beard, Buddy Martin, Tony Barnhart, Mark Schleybaugh, John Pruitt, former editor, sports editor of the Huntsville Times, Philip Marshall, Mark Murphy, Jason Caldwell, whoever, Rodney Orr. Every detail matters, doesn't it, Dudley, when you write a story?
Oh, absolutely. And, the key thing these days, journalism at times has become clickbait stuff and gotcha headlines and all that. I still contend that doing it right is the best thing for the reader. Yes, it's great if you can get the story first, but it's more important to have a fair, well-written story that somebody spell checks for me, grammatically does. But I think it's telling stories, as you said, is what is needed now, especially since newspapers, have been dying out to a certain extent. So I think that if you're going to grab somebody's attention, you better grab it in the first few paragraphs. And then if you want to keep them reading, then you better have a story other than he had 24 points and 11 rebounds.
Like Kevin Skarbinski, our good friend who's on with us almost every week, the Birmingham Lead, Mitch, Lede, fantastic. But Mitch, keep doing what you're doing, but I'm going to hook you and Dudley up because I enjoy it. I enjoy what both of y'all are doing, and we need more of it. And one other really cool quote came from one of our listeners right before we went on the show. Says David Aquadro and Tom Dorian, the man who does not read has no advantage over the man who cannot read. Mitch?
I agree with that, Rob, 100%. And you and I talked about this on your show last time I was on, I think it's a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday. One thing that's so cool for me about this SEC tournament is I grew up in the confines of the Georgia Dome. I grew up in the confines of the old Bridgestone Arena. I forgot what the name was. Down there in Nashville. I grew up going to the SEC tournament. I grew up listening to old Kaywood Leckford games and John Ward games and Jack Crystal at Mississippi State. I grew up listening to those three guys. And of course you go down the line of reading Georgia Pettis. You go down the line of, all these different guys that I've listened to and grown up reading. And that's what got me started. That's what's going to be so cool about this weekend for me is, walking the same halls that all these guys that I looked up to, Jack Crystal, Kaywood Letford, all these guys that I looked up to walk the same steps I'm going to be walking this weekend. I think that's going to be pretty cool. And it's also going to be pretty neat for me. And, I hate to be a fan or whatever, but it's also going to be pretty neat for me to have my dad there about a mile from the hospital that saved his life a year and a half ago at Vanderbilt. That to me, my dad raised me to love the game of college basketball, to work hard, to play hard, to love the Lord, and to have my dad there this weekend with me, watching me while I do my thing is going to be a pretty cool feat. I saw him that the other day. I was like, Dad, we're going to be a mile and a half. My brother's going to be with us a mile and a half from the hospital that just saved your life, and we're going to be
Mitch,
there.
Mitch, hold that thought, because I remember talking to you on the phone when the helicopter was landing. So that was a cool story. We'll be right back. Mitch Davis, Dudley Dawson. Yeah, Mitch, I remember it. I remember that well. But and you're right. And I think Dudley would agree. You've covered a lot of SEC tournaments, Dudley, baseball tournaments, basketball, SEC football championship, whatever. All those great writers that we grew up with. And I remember years ago, Mitch and Dudley, you remember these days, a lot of newspapers wouldn't allow their writers to go on sports talk radio shows. Remember the Great Divide? You'd go to a press conference. I mean, I remember the TV guys over here, the radio, electronic would be over here, and the print guys would be over here trying to get the coaches off to the side and get stories. But if there's one thing that I detest about today's world is people who take other people's work, steal it, and try and take credit as if that's their own, and splattering a bunch of split against the wall, just trying to get it first versus getting it right, as you referenced a minute ago, Dudley. True grit journalism. We got to have more of it.
Yeah, it's certainly that's happened to me before, and I resisted the urge to take them out behind the shed and shoot them. It is just again one of these old fogey things. I guess now that I'm about 60, is do your own work, and if you have to take work from somebody else, then you shouldn't be in this business anyway.
Yeah, and always give credit, Mitch. You know that. Mm-hmm. I mean, always want to give. And you talk about Kaywood Ledford and Ralph Hacker here on the UK Basketball Network, brought to you by Ashland Oil. Throughout the great state of Kentucky and Kentuckiana, this is Wildcat Basketball. And Joe Dean, I mean, Dudley, did it get any better when Joe Dean would have that microphone? He was about 8 feet tall, hell of a basketball player at LSU, Mitch. And he would, he'd be somebody, Mitch, to be playing a game. Barry Goheen, remember him, the great shooting guard for Vanderbilt back in the mid-'80s? And he'd be lighting it up, and he'd go, little string music from downtown Nashville, Tennessee. And then what he would say, Mitch, when a player would run, go to the court and slam dunk it, he'd go, little Stufferino. Remember that, Dudley? Stufferino. You don't hear guys doing that anymore. I tell you one that I do like. Bring Ben. Ben Troupe's going to come on with us now. We're going to have a round table. Hello, Ben, down ESPN Coastal down in Savannah, Georgia, Monday through Friday, 3 to 6 p.m., sports talk, Gator All-American, 5 years in the NFL, great father of 3 kids and husband, great man. Love having him on here. And I'm going to say something. You think about it. I love Dudley, and you may not know, you didn't cover him, but Joe Klein, I love watching him do a basketball game. The big guy out of out of the small town, Missouri. Which
Slater,
one?
Missouri.
Slater, yeah, Slater Joe. That's his Twitter handle. But
yeah, he was one of the groomsmen in my wedding. So
okay, then you know
that's how well I know Joe.
Yeah, I just remember when he transferred from Notre Dame to Arkansas, and it's just I love the history, the traditions, the heroes of all of these great writers, the players, but going and doing the stories and Mitch, Ben Troupe, again, played All-American under Steve Spurrier and Ron Zook at Florida in 5 years in the NFL. Love having him on here to get his perspective. And I don't know, Mitch, if you've met Ben, but Ben always wears the best looking hat. Dudley, love your hat. Ben, it's just, Ben needs his own fashion line. But I've got a copy. Let me show you something. This is a copy of his book, Uncommon, Unfinished. Great story. I love to read it. I read that and a few other books. I like to read passages from it during the day, but he's great, puts things in perspective. But say hello, Mitch, to Ben Troupe, and Dudley to Ben Troupe. You've met him before.
What's up, Ben? How are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Always good to see you again, Dudley, man. Good to meet you, Mitch.
All right, Dudley, I know you got to go here in about 5 minutes, but just let me say this, Dudley, I'll just let you close out now. Before you let people know how they can follow you and keep up with the great work, what's your gut feeling on this SEC basketball tournament, and how you think the HAWGs are going to do? You'll break my heart if you get the W tomorrow night, but that's life. Ain't a damn thing you can do about it except go out there and give it 110%. But also, thank you for taking time, as always, to share with us on Sidelines.
Well, obviously, Alabama's been the best team from the start to finish this year during the season, the SEC. I don't know if they'll win the tournament. I do think that Texas A&M and Missouri and Vanderbilt have been three teams that I think have, almost overachieved maybe this year, that they've been mentally tougher than a lot of other teams. I like those teams to get at least to the semifinals and maybe even win it. We'll see. But as long as Alabama's out there and playing the way they can have bad first half and still come back and win. I think Alabama's still got to be the favorite, but it should be an entertaining tournament. And you have some teams in the first round, Arkansas and Auburn being a couple of those that really need to win, not only for NCAA tournament seed wise, but just to have a good feeling about themselves.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think you want to go lose just so you can have more rest. Winning is contagious. Nothing succeeds like success. And I agree. Dudley, listen, man, let people know how they can follow you, and look forward to doing this again next week. This has been Dudley Dawson on the ECS House Industries Razorback Report.
Hogville.net message board covers all of Arkansas sports, and Fearless Friday, which is the high school side I contribute to. And if you need to hear
Yeah. Okay, Dudley. Yeah, Dudley. I think we lost Dudley. But anyway, Dudley, hogville.net. Love having him on. Ben, Mitch, we're going to be joined in a few more minutes by Coach Matt Dean, and then Coach John Brady's going to be on with us. But Mitch, I know you've got a few more minutes to with us as well. But Ben, let's talk about it right now. SEC basketball tournament. A lot of teams heading to Nashville. Probably 8, we think, in the SEC will get NCAA bids, which is one of the better years the conference has had. Who's your favorite to win this whole thing based on the body of evidence? I hate to say body of work, body of evidence you've seen throughout the 18-game regular season.
I mean, I do agree with Dudley. I mean, Alabama has been really, really good, but that usually doesn't. The regular season champ doesn't usually bowl well when you talk about the tournament. I think the scariest team might be Texas A&M, but I think a team to watch is Vanderbilt. I know that Jared Stackhouse just won co-SEC coach of the year. That says a lot. Let's face it, when it comes to SEC basketball, if Kentucky ain't the top team, we start thinking, is it Auburn? Is it Tennessee? This year happens to be Alabama, Texas A&M. Like we talked about in another show, Rob, somebody kids say they're going to Texas A&M. They say congratulations, like no basketball. Like they got basketball. And Texas A&M, and they pretty freaking good this year. But watch out for them Vanderbilt boys. I think when you a team like Vanderbilt, outside of Vanderbilt baseball, anything you do in basketball is definitely a bonus. And I think Stackhouse and company are really, really good. Alabama, because they know they're already in. I'm not saying they're going to play down, but watch out for the Texas A&M boys and Vanderbilt boys to make some noise in this tournament.
Now, I agree with you. And Mitch, I want to ask you something. Buzz Williams. Rodney Dangerfield. I tell you, I get no respect. He gets no respect. Everybody's punishing A&M for the 5 losses against some not such great teams early in the season. Forget the fact that they went 15-3 in the SEC and beat Alabama this past Saturday. Doesn't that mean something?
I think it does, Rob. And, to Ben's point about the regular season champion, here everybody's giving their pick, and I'm going to give my pick as the dark horse of the SEC tournament. I've got the boys in maroon out of Starkville, Mississippi. Chris Yans has got his boys playing pretty well. I know they lost to Vanderbilt on the road at Memorial Coliseum as a sold-out crowd, but Mississippi State all season long, I've watched them. I've been able to cover them now that I've lived down there. Mississippi State is a team to watch out for in this tournament. They're built for March. This is a team that's tough. They're physical. If they can find the points, if they can score over 65, 70 points a game, watch out for the Bulldogs, especially with their draw to at least get to the semifinals. I mean, they lost to Florida by 2 in Starkville, but that game was a game where Castleton scored, I think, 12, 14 points there in Starkville. He broke his hand. He's out for Florida. Alabama is not going to want to beat at the SEC tournament. Plus, they've got all this off-the-court distractions going on that, You
Yeah.
know, I hopefully, Rob, I can talk about this for just a second. I don't think Brandon Miller deserved the Player of the Year in the SEC just because all this distractions. It should be about not only the best player on the court, but the best player character-wise. And the way that Alabama and Nate Oates has handled this has been an embarrassment to the conference. And, you know, I get guilty until proven innocent, or innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
But at this point, there are text messages from one teammate to a next saying to bring a gun to the scene of the crime, which murdered a beautiful, innocent young lady who left a 5-year-old boy without a mother. You know, I'm really disappointed in the SEC. Hopefully I don't catch a lot of flack for that this weekend in Nashville from the conference. Have been good to me so far. But for me, you know, everybody keeps talking about their sleeper. Mine's the Mississippi State Bulldogs out of Starkville, Mississippi.
Hey, First Amendment free speech is alive and well on Sidelines, so don't worry about that. But hey,
Nate Oates does not allow questions in his press conference regarding the Brandon Miller situation. I know, Ben, you've probably seen the tweets from everybody in the press conferences. He does not allow the questions, and you know, I'm going to go in there because I do cover Mississippi State. I live in the great state of Mississippi. You know, and if they are playing Mississippi State on Friday, you better believe that I'm going to be in that press conference one way or the other. And, you know, if they allow me to ask a question, then, hey, that's fair. But if not, I'm going to at least be asking Coach Yans about the win over Alabama on Friday.
I like that confidence, man. Ben, let me throw this along what he just said. First off, I agree. Nate Oates never should have been answering questions about this. That should have been University Council, media relations, or whatever on that. But Mitch, I admire you. You know, your guts, and good. Do it, because what is the job of the press? To hold people in powers of position and authority accountable. A democracy exists when the people run things, not when they fear the government, but when the government fears the retribution of the people at the voting booth, of course.
And Rob, let me ask Ben this as a former student athlete. Ben, you know, had a teammate of yours texted you to bring a gun to a crime scene or bring his gun to the bar,
click.
Would you have done it? And, you know, had you, would you not have been suspended by Steve Spurrier?
Oh yeah, I mean the thing is, yeah, I mean, and I expect it to be. I think too often the times we talked about this on the previous Sidelines is it's what it says past basketball. Like if these are two regular individuals, you know, in the city of Tuscaloosa, how do we view this situation? I think what happens is you protecting these athletes because of their talent and what they mean to a team. That's gonna fade. I mean, you're going to look back and say, so you're telling me one of Alabama's best seasons was marred by something that happened off the field, and the kid that was involved when it just happened to be SEC player of the year? I agree with you, Mitch. It's what it says. It's saying, look, bad behavior is, you know, we push it to the side when you're a great athlete. I thought those days was over with, because no matter what, women need to know they are protected on these campuses. And if you are a young lady and you're seeing this, especially that young lady's family and her son and her parents, they're thinking, well, dude, like, this dude is being honored doing the dumbest pregame celebrations you ever seen. It's like, I mean, you talking about just unaware as a get, and Coach Nate Oates, I'm like, you, what do you mean I can't ask you about it? What do you mean, oh, don't ask me about that? Well, why do you think we're here? You think we're really here to talk about Alabama basketball? We are, but if that's a part of it, you make millions of dollars, excuse me, to be able to answer these questions. So that's why I'm not in these press conferences, because I didn't get the memo. Being you can't ask Coach Oates about Miller. What do you mean? It's like, that's why we're here. And I think that these coaches need to know we don't work for Alabama, man. We here to get out the fans, the people want to know. But I think the same way they coddle these players, they coddle these coaches. The coaches got way too much power. And there was a time to where you sat there and took it. You're answering questions. You're not on trial. We want to know what's going on, because like I say, if this does indeed end up the way we think it is, head coach, president, AD, all those guys' jobs should be, you know, on the ringer, because Alabama athletics shouldn't have to take a hit because one sport in it is being looked upon, you know, as not even really handling their business at this point. I'll never understand it, because like I said, you're going to be here for 3 to 4 years, but your legacy will live on forever. And this is what we're going to remember about this Alabama team, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about it is, this would not be accepted by Nick Saban. This would not be – if this were on Alabama football, Nick Saban would have already suspended the guy, and he would not be playing a down of Alabama football. And I think that this, shows how, student athletes at certain schools get certain passes just because this is the most historic season that Alabama will ever have in basketball and has ever had in the history of their basketball. And, Ben, to your point, it is sad because I've had this conversation with my fiance, and she's like, how is that kid still playing this? How is he still, because he was basically accomplice to a murder of a young lady, of a mother. How is he still playing? I had to have that conversation with her about, hey, sometimes student athletes get protected. We both went to Memphis, and, there were a lot of different cases, whether it be, sexual assault cases and all this kind of stuff that got covered up, just because it was a star athlete. And It's sad that in our culture, and Rob knows this, I'm really good friends. I don't know, Ben, if you know Rachel Barbeau, the most greatest lady on the face of the earth. She goes to speak student athletes. Me and her have had that conversation a lot here lately about, changing the narrative and being a light and being a beacon of hope for young men. And, we see that in the city of Memphis right now, where I'm from, with Ja Morant. Ja Morant has made a really dumb decision. He has, tarnished his, image for the city of Memphis. And, I'm just praying. I'm a man of faith. I'm praying that he turns it around because he's got so many young men in the city of Memphis and young boys, and looking up to him. And, to see these two situations unfold has been really sad to watch.
Yeah, it has. And you got to hold people accountable. We're about to go to a break, Mitch, but great commentary. And Ben, hang on. We're going to come after the break. But Mitch, MitchDavisShow.com, great writer. Mitch, you're going to be back on tomorrow morning with us, ready for you, covering the SEC tournament. Go to those press conferences, ask questions. You want coaches. Remember, they are state employees. And the more money we've paid these coaches, the more arrogant and full of split that they are. And it's wrong. They should be completely accessible. All their assistant coaches, you shouldn't have to get 5 minutes or 15 minutes of a practice window. Hey, you're a public servant. Act like it. You're getting paid for it. Hey, we'll be right back with more Sidelines after this. Mitch, we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. Ben.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Ben Troupe, I just got a text. It's interesting. Just got a text. And let's bring Matt Dean on with us right now. Matt Dean, background, 32 years now, Ben, over at Rhodes College in Memphis. 16 years as women's basketball coach, AD, now associate AD. His son, for the previous 4 years, was on the staff with Jimbo at Texas A&M on the football staff. And now, just about to start, he's in his second year with Dan Lanning at Oregon. So, Matt, I don't know if you've met Ben Troupe over at ESPN Coastal. Ben was a Gator football All-American for Steve Spurrier. Ron Zook, 5 years in the NFL. Great dad. Got a great book here. Let me show it to you again. Uncommon, Unfinished. Speaks a lot around the country. Motivation, doing things the right way, but about accountability. So we're going to have a fun roundtable, and Coach John Brady will be joining us here in about 15 minutes or so. So we're going to do a little roundtable these next two segments, talking college basketball and all. But let me ask you this real quick, Matt, before you say hello to Ben. I just got a text that Ja Morant could be suspended for blank number of games, and I want to verify, trust but verify. Get a lot of stuff sent to me during the show. What are you all hearing? And Matt, what are you hearing about Ja? I love the Grizzlies. I mean, I try to go to 25 or 30 games a year. Love them. But you got to be held accountable. Nobody is above being held accountable. Not in my world.
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be on with Ben. Ben, I've never met you, but I've read a lot about you. I need to get your book, though. I didn't know you had a book. So, man, pleasure to meet you. I think the biggest thing with Ja for me is it's not the number of games, it's that he gets his life straight and takes time away from the court. He's 23. He's a superstar. I've heard a lot of comparisons. Ben, I don't know what your take is on this, to him and Allen Iverson recently. When Allen first came in the league, it had some situations that may have been similar. And I think Ja does have a great father figure. I think T's been outstanding. I think you in the coaching world, I always tell my players, you are judged by the company you keep. Same things I tell my two boys. All it takes, guys, of years of sweat equity to build up your brand, whatever you want to call it, is one bad decision. So let's not judge this man on a couple decisions, and hopefully, I don't even know what to say about the number of games, Rob, but I just want him to get it right and get the right help. Yeah,
and I didn't want to throw it out there because
no,
Ben. I want to get it right, and Matt, and Ben, we've talked about this with the thing with Brandon Miller at Alabama. Ben, Matt being an AD now, associate AD at Rhodes College, which is D3, but it doesn't matter D1, 2, or 3. I always say it. There are people. There are going to be consequences when you screw up, and Ben, this is something I've learned. Knowing a lot of athletes and interviewing a lot of people, and just in all my years, there are a few athletes that do some dumb things. Most professional athletes are pretty damn smart because you got to be incredibly well disciplined. I mean, to last 5 years, you walked away from the NFL. You could have stayed and played 10 or 12 years. So let's get that off the damn table. Ja Morant, at 23 with a $250 million contract. There's a lot of people and things coming at him, aren't there?
There is, but I mean, Ja Morant, he's understood for a long time. He's not like everybody else. The hardest thing for athletes to realize is everybody can't go with you. That doesn't mean that, that's anybody. That's family members. That's close friends, because you represent something far different. Ja Morant is not another face in the crowd. He is the face in the crowd, and it does a disservice to everything you do, not just what it took to get there. I mean, Nick Saban said it the best, man. What it took to get here is going to take that and more to stay here, because it's going to be nobody's fault but Ja's. It doesn't matter what is said. It doesn't matter who he was with, right? I mean, we can go back to the Michael Vick situation. It doesn't matter what you grew up doing. You Michael Vick, you can't do it. And I think that's the hardest thing for any student athlete, professional athlete to understand is, listen, man, you're normal. You're just not ordinary. Yeah, you're a normal dude, but you ain't an ordinary dude. You're an extraordinary dude. And that doesn't mean that he's better or worse than anybody. That's the hardest thing we all had to get. It's because, yes, when you make a mistake, it's supposed to be highly scrutinized because of who you are. Like, if the CEO of the company mess up, it's different than an employee messing up. You're the freaking CEO of the company. Well, you're the CEO of the Memphis Grizzlies. We watch the Grizzlies because Ja Morant played for them. We watched a guy that's coming out of Kent State, number 2 overall pick behind Zion, got a chance to be the face of the NBA. And like you mentioned, unfortunately, scrutiny is a part of what you do. People get mad at it, but the NBA will judge the most by the few. Most guys are not going to do what Ja Morant did. Most guys know not to do what Ja Morant did, and most guys don't got the leverage that Ja Morant. If Ja Morant was just the 15th or the 12th guy on the team, they'll get rid of him. No, he's the guy on the team. So I think Ja Morant need to understand that he's not a regular 23-year-old. I know he's very, very young, but man, you got to know that this hurts the NBA, this hurts the Grizzlies, this hurts his reputation. Hopefully, like you said, man, he understands that. Look, making hard decisions is telling your friends, look, man, I can't. If I'm in a position where I need a gun, period, I probably shouldn't be there. Probably to call Plexico Burris, right? Probably to call Gilbert Arenas, right? Call guys like, look, man, you're going to ruin your career before it even gets started. The money is secondary, man. Who you are is primary. He got to know that he's not anybody, and too much is given, much required. And if he gets suspended, the best way to get a player's attention is to take his money from him. You start taking his money from him, you get his attention every single time.
Yeah. Matt, you probably had both of y'all are knocking it out of the park. And I'm sitting here reading the comments that are coming in from listeners, and we love our listeners. And they're just saying, basically it's crazy, stupid. And Ben, Matt, we all know this. And you could be in the private sector. You go out and get a DUI or public intoxication, fighting in a bar, you can lose your job. I mean, if you're a lawyer, you destroy your brand. You can, do it. You know what? Rule number 1. And speaking of books, it's called Leadership Lessons of the Navy SEALs. I read that book a lot. Rule number 1, never put yourself in a position to fail. So, you know what? Get an Uber or sleep on the floor. I remember back when the old, parties in high school, I had 2 older sisters. Our house was party central. A lot of times there'd be 35 or 40 people sleeping on the floor. And my mother, I'd say, why are all these people spending the night over here? She goes, because I don't want your father to spend the rest of his natural born life working to pay off lawsuits. You got to think, Matt. In your position at Rhodes, you've got right at just under 2,000 students there. You got a lot of student athletes. They want to win just like somebody at Auburn. It doesn't matter. They're just as competitive, and they've got that academic load to deal with. They better have their noodles screwed on right, shouldn't they?
Well, I'll give you an example in a smaller world, in my world, the Division III athletic world. I live in Memphis, Tennessee, right? And we all know, man, I'm sure if you've been to Memphis, you've probably been to Beale Street, right? And when I was a young assistant coach, man, I loved going to Beale Street. I was an assistant coach. My wife would go to Silky's or, a couple places there, Alfred's, dancing, whatever.
Yosemite
right?
Sam's is over in Square.
Yeah, I've had the bucket before.
Kings.
But then once I became a head coach, the only time you would see me at Silky's is maybe out to dinner at a restaurant. And then I was out of there, and listen, I know as we get older, we have to make decisions like that if we want to keep doing what we're doing in the public eye. I mean, you hit it on the head. If you're a worker, Josh Hart just got traded to the Knicks, and the Knicks are playing really good basketball right now. So last night I saw this clip, and it really stuck to me. My dad was a factory worker. Someone said to Josh, he goes, "Are you guys tired?" It was a back-to-back. He goes, "Man, people get up at 6 a.m. and work 12-hour shifts to support their family. That's tired. We're getting paid $1 million to play a game we love to play. Man, I'm not tired. We just lost a game tonight." And I think my whole point is when you rise in the corporate ladder, wherever that ladder may be, and Ben referred to Ja. Ja is the CEO of the Grizzlies, damn near the CEO of the whole league. He's the face of the league. You can't even put yourself in those positions.
Yeah.
You can't even carry a weapon out at a bar, nightclub, whatever. And that's why I'm saying I'm not worried about the suspension. I'm worried about him moving forward so it doesn't happen again. Because if it happens again, he may be done with basketball. He may have thrown all his career away. I'm pulling for Ja. I hope Ja gets the right person in his ear to help lead him from this point forward.
Yeah, and Ben, that's the thing about it. And from playing at Florida, around a lot of, you talk about being under the microscope. My God.
Yeah.
Gator football, Mick Hubert. Oh, my, Ben Troupe, Gator touchdown. The sophomore from Swainsboro. But anyway, you think about the scrutiny that you're under. What kind of conversations happened outside of the practice in the locker room in the NFL? You don't see a lot of finger pointing. Do you all both remember 2003 Auburn-Ole Miss game? At the end of the game, Auburn quarterback Jason Campbell hit Auburn wide receiver Ben Obamanu right in the numbers, and he dropped the ball. Auburn would have won the game, and he was from Selma, Alabama. Ben went on later to play for the Seahawks 7 years, law school at Alabama. He's now an attorney. Great kid. Friend of mine was the starting right tackle on that team, and I said, what did y'all say to him in the huddle after he came back after dropping that, because everybody remembers it was Eli versus Jason Campbell. Auburn wins the game if he catches it. He goes, what did we say to him when he came back to the huddle? So, guys, it's 4th down. We're going to do it on this play. Done a damn thing because they're a team. Ben, and, you know, a few weeks later, he scores a 75-yard touchdown against Alabama. You got to be tough, but off the field, outside the locker room, I bet y'all had some heated conversations about holding each other accountable, didn't you?
We
and
had to.
acting right in public.
We had to. The thing about it is the upperclassmen, them guys are helping you understand how to play the game of football, but they showing you how to be young men away from the field. Like they used to tell us, man. At Florida, they said, listen, man, college ain't nothing but training wheels to adulthood. When you walk out of here, man, you got to take the training wheels off, man. You got to be able to drive your own car. What happens is we look at the athlete, right, and we don't know. Listen, you know how hard it is to be a superstar athlete in college means, boy, you got to walk a fine line all the time. I'm talking about all the time. But those guys also help us understand how hard it is to do what we did on a day in, day out basis. And it's how they went about it. I mean, players can talk to players in ways that coaches never could because we know each other away. And that's what you're supposed to do. If the upperclassmen ain't showing the underclassmen the way, forget winning and losing games. We're not even going to be a good team. So, yeah, we had guys like Alex Browne and Jawad Warren and Kenyatta Walker. Those guys, outside of being some of the best at their positions, they kept it 100 with us. They told us. They say, listen, man, some of y'all only want to be good football players. Y'all suck as people. Y'all suck at it. Because what happens is we were good football players. We're like, what you mean we suck as people? They're like, everything you do, somebody got to put it on the schedule. Everything. From who you talk to, how you talk to them, how long you talk to them. When are you going to put your own schedule together and say, look, man, show up to your classes. Treat everybody like Coach Spurrier. Everybody you meet, treat them as if they were Coach Spurrier. Because you ain't going to do the same stuff you will say or not say to him. And it's things we use in life now. So now when we talk to each other, we ain't saying, man, we ain't talking about the big play you had in the game. You're like, man, that time you told me I was messing up. That time you told me, boy, you're going to be out of here. You're going to come. They said you could just take the athlete off your name. You're going to be a great student, never get on the field, get a good degree, and people going to ask, why you never played? Tell them, because I couldn't handle away from the field. And that stuff, and every player that measured up to anything in college, ask them who helped them understand what it really was. You got to understand the totality of this thing. And when you 17, 18, it's a little rough. It's a little hard to get it. But I'm telling you, and they'll call you out in front of the team. They'll say, Coach, he ain't going out there with me. Do not put him on the field with me. Who you think the coach gonna listen to? An All-American who's helping us win game, or a young up and coming talent who don't know his right from his left? So I appreciate it. Ain't good when you're going through it. But once you become an upperclassman, you turn into those same dudes, man. You be telling them young boys, some of y'all boys look real good in y'all uniforms. They will not get dirty because you ain't going out there. I guarantee you, O coordinator, D coordinator, head coach, they going to listen to the players, man. And, hey, man, it took me 4 years to start. I started 1 year in college. If they would have put me out there to start the first 3 years, I would embarrass me, parents, teammates, because I was talented. But being talented ain't enough, man. That ain't enough. You got to. If I'm talented on the field, they'll say, what your professor say about you? They don't even know you. What do the students you in class would say about you? And to me, I didn't even know they did that. So once I realized I had to turn it on and off the field, oh man, I was ready then. Because like I said, I mean, they said when it comes time to get a job in real life, they ain't coming to your head coach. They coming to your professors, your academic advisors. They're going to be the ones make sure you get a career that's not in the football realm. So, yeah, man, it like I said, a lot goes into it. That's why I tell a lot of players now, if all you ever going to be is a good football player, you ain't going to make it in life, man. I hope you play football for 20 years because when it's over, how you going to get a job, man, when your boss been in the corporate world for 30 years and you just a young pup that got some accolades on a Wikipedia page? That's not going to get it. That's not going to get it.
Yeah. Matt, follow that one up. I mean, wow.
Ben speaks the truth, and I'll give you an example on a different level. Like anytime I've applied for a head coaching job, right? We all have what we call a list of references in our portfolio, right? they're gonna talk to the tennis coach about me. They're gonna talk to the soccer coach about me. They're gonna say, "Hey, how is this guy? Does he support your team?" I'm a basketball coach. They're not gonna talk to other basketball people about me because they figure I'm pretty good at that craft. They want to know how I am as a person around my colleagues. Do I respect everyone? Coach Hilgeman, my mentor, who's in our Hall of Fame. Anytime we got ready to compete, he's like, respect everyone, but fear no one. And that's kind of been my motto. I mean, I'm never shied away from the moment as a coach. I've been fortunate enough to coach in 4 NCAA tournaments. Had, a chance to win a lot of games. I'm the all-time winningest women's coach in school history. But you know what? I was filming last night our women's lacrosse game because we were short of worker. It was a 3:00 game. I'm associate AD. The kids were in class. I'm going to help my colleague out. I'm going to step up and film that lacrosse game. If you can be a good teammate, and that's why I heard something that was interesting, Ben, that Steven Adams has stepped up in the locker room a little bit with Ja because he's a veteran, and you're talking about accountability within the locker room. And I believe them, and I've seen it. My better teams, my best players are an extension of the coaching staff, without question.
Hold that thought, Matt, because this is right on point about Ja and everybody. You've got to have – you can't just – the coaches do it. It starts with the players organically. More after this.
Got it.
All right, Rob Browne back with Ben Troupe, Matt Dean. Now Coach John Brady joins us, and we're you're nailing it, Coach Brady has got some experience with this, and Coach, welcome to Sidelines, and Coach Brady from Macomb, Mississippi. We talked about Ben and Matt. His first few years coaching, first 3 years in high school, so they paid him $15,000 a year. And Coach, I want to introduce you to Matt Dean. He's 32 years at Rhodes College, coached women's basketball for 16 years, and Herb Hilgeman is his mentor. Doesn't matter, D1, D2, D3. You love the coaches who start from humble beginnings, rise to the top. All of y'all work hard. That's why it's such a close fraternity. And Ben Troupe's up here with us. We've been talking about Ja Morant, what he's done with the Grizzlies. And I want to flip it over here to you, Coach, some of the conversations that you had away from the spotlight with guys like Glenn Davis or Stromile Swift or whatever. You strike me as, and Frank Duffy and I talk about you a lot. You're fun and all like that, but I imagine you get a case of the red ass, I wouldn't want to be in the room with you.
Well, I don't know. I always thought there was a standard by which I wanted, our team to conduct themselves and how I want them to play. And, you can't be everybody's friend. I'd rather have respect and be a friend. I don't know if I was a player's coach or not. I was a coach that tried to tell guys what they needed to do and hold them accountable for actions that didn't meet the standard that we all agreed upon in meetings. So somebody's got to take charge. Somebody's got to be in charge. And if it's not the head coach, then you probably don't have a good structured operation.
Yeah. I can see that. Matt, and Ben, we both know it. Matt, you as a coach, you got 13 scholarship players. You're lucky if you have 10 or 11 in today's world, and 7 or 8 of them are going to play a lot. You got to keep everybody happy too.
Well, just to clarify, Rob, I never had a scholarship player because I'm a Division III guy. But on the flip side, let's go with your analogy. Let's say I had 13 scholarship players, okay? There's an old Casey Stengel quote, I think, out there. to be successful, you got to keep the 7 people that don't like you away from the 7 that hadn't made up their mind yet. And that's a little bit like basketball, because your first 7 or 8 kids are in the rotation. They're getting minutes. You got 5 of those that are starters. They're probably okay with their role if you're winning more than you're losing. But, man, at my level, where everybody's paying a part of the freight, keeping 9 through 15 happy is a chore. And I've always felt opportunity. I always felt like as a coach, you get an opportunity every day, every drill, every practice, every possession. And that's just the way I went about it. And I put the best kids on the floor that give us a chance to win the ball game. That was kind of my philosophy. I think most coaches are that way.
Yeah. Coach Brady, you know, and you've been on with Ben before, and I love getting people together, all of y'all, you know, played sports, coach sports. Coach Brady, looking now at the SEC tournament, I saw something on Twitter last night, made me laugh. Someone said, would the SEC office let us know who they want to win the conference tournament so we can all just not get so upset when it goes that way? But look, my response to that was hit your layups, hit your free throws. And as Gandhi said, I will not allow other people to walk through my mind with their dirty feet. Control what you can control. Remember, you worked with Coach Saban. You know Coach Saban. What did he always say? He still says it. Control the controllables. You like that? I love it.
I didn't catch you, man. You were kind of breaking up on me talking about.
Sorry about that. Yeah, when you were there, Nick Saban was at LSU when you were there. He has a quote called, he always says, control the controllables. You know, control everything you can. You know, hit your layups, hit your free throws. Don't let the refs get in your head. And that famous Gandhi quote, I won't allow other people to walk through my mind with their dirty feet. Because a lot of people are trying to write your narrative, aren't they?
Well, you're kind of breaking up on me. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, I hear you fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
I don't know. You're talking about control what you can. You're talking about control what you can control, and I don't know. Hit your layups and free throws. I don't know what are you.
Just a lot of people think that the refs are out to get them and all, and it's a tough part, you know, when all that's going on. But that's really it. And Coach Brady is hopefully Ben and Matt. I hope y'all can hear me. Yes. But we Coach Brady come back with us in just a minute. But Ben, you know what I'm talking about. Matt, just I think a lot of people get it in their head. The refs are out to get them, and you don't want that to be the narrative, do you, Ben?
No, I mean, look. I mean, everybody know the hardest job in sports is to beat them zebras. I don't care what sport it is. You get to yelling at the refs all the time. You know it's going to be rough, but I mean, sports is one of those. Sports is one of those things to where, you know, as long as you're coming out on the winning end of you know, of whatever sport you play, you know, everything is better. You know, food tastes better. You know. I mean, but I just know that when it comes to basketball is different because I don't know what it is about them last 2 minutes of basketball, man. I mean, things like boxing out, rebounding, free throw, like the fundamentals of basketball come up more in the last minutes of the game that you ever seen before. That's why I couldn't play it, because a guy hit a shot that he's never even attempted in his life, and it's like time just stopped. Man, I'm a Gator fan, man. You think I want to talk about SEC basketball, man? You think I really want to do this today when Texas A&M and Alabama and Vanderbilt are the cream of the crop right now? I love Coach Golden because I have to. I wish Castleton wouldn't have got hurt, SEC Player of the Year. But we're a long ways away from Joe Kim Noah, you know, and company, you know, Billy. I mean, but I love SEC basketball. I think the tournament is one of the best things there is because it gives somebody a chance to make it into the tournament by winning the SEC tournament. But I mean, you got to be able. Listen, whatever got you there, you got to use whatever got you there. Don't become somebody different. And the tournament, what I like is guys get up and down the floor, man. You got to be, you know, sometimes the better conditioned team got a shot to win it. But if you got a player that can shoot from the perimeter, you got a big man that can defend, and you can shoot free throws down the stretch, you're going to be really, really hard to beat.
Coach Brady, yeah, along those lines, just, you know, controlling everything you can. It's tournament time, man. What are your thoughts on that? You go in there wanting to win every game, and you're not thinking about getting rest, are you?
Well, you don't have any choice to get rest. I mean, you got to play 2 or 3 consecutive games and consecutive days. But I really think the teams that defend the best and rebound the best when you play consecutive games are the teams that I think have the better chance to win it. You know, if you rely on shot making every game to make your team go or play to its potential, I think shot making can come and go. I think Alabama shoots it much better at home than they do on the road. And I think teams like Tennessee, that's based in defending. I think Texas A&M, it's based in defending. Even Mississippi State is an excellent defensive team. I favor those type of teams in a tournament situation when you play consecutive days, as opposed to teams that rely on shooting the ball, because I think that can come and go. But the defending and rebounding is an effort stat that can take place every single game.
Yeah. Matt, you know, you 16 years coaching the women's basketball team. You share that philosophy. I think it's right on.
100%. You know, my better teams had really good turnover margin ratios. We were getting extra possessions. We were rebounding the ball at a 3 or 4 plus margin per game. And we always defended the line pretty well. We ran them off the 3-point line. So I agree with Coach. I mean, my best teams didn't always shoot the ball that well, but that's why we're able to win close games, is because we weren't going to turn it over and we weren't going to give you second chance opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Coach, you think about in the mindset right now. You know, you're the color analyst on the LSU Basketball Network. You coached there for 11 years, and Ben or Matt, I'm gonna see if they can do it before I ask you another question, Coach. Can either of y'all tell me where legendary LSU basketball coach Dale Browne was from? Because that's who Coach Brady replaced. But where was Dale Browne from? Y'all remember?
Dale Browne? Was he from Louisiana? I mean, don't even get me.
No.
I'm not good. I'm not good with these. Where they from? I'm not good with that. With those.
All right, Minot, North Dakota.
Wow.
What it's famous for is a SAC Air Base there, Strategic Air Command, famous place there. But I tell you what, that SEC hoops history is incredible. And Coach, you get to be around Dale Browne some, don't you?
Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What if you tell me what you've learned from him and other coaches along the way? Because again, not that I want you to leave the LSU Basketball Network, but we need you on SEC Network. We need a coach in studio or doing the game. I'm going to put you and Joe Klein together or something. I think that'd be a lot of fun. But talk about what you've learned from Coach Browne.
I love Joe. Well, what I've learned from Coach Browne is do it your way and have no regrets. And whatever you think is right and whatever your gut tells you to do based on your frame of reference, you do that. And you know, that's what Dale Browne did his whole career. He and most successful coaches to me travel to a different drumbeat. They're not cookie cutter. I think the ones that I like the most and been attracted to do it the way they want to do it, how they want to do it, kind of get out of my way. Here I come. And I'm going to hold guys accountable, but we're going to play the way I want to play it. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. And if my personality gets in the way, so be it. But I'm coming at you, you know, full bore. And Dale Browne, one thing he did at LSU for 25 years, he did it his way. And that's what made him unique, and that's what made him special.
Yeah. Yeah. And you think about it, Ben and Matt, the players that he had and the players that you coached, Coach Brady, you give them, you know, structure, and that helps. But, you know, then you bring in what you said of your best team, 6 of those players were from right there, Baton Rouge, you know, maybe Denham Springs or something. So basically from Baton Rouge, they had that family support as well. And in this case, it helped a lot. So I think that's a cool story. Coach, real quick, we got a few minutes, 5 minutes left. This SEC basketball tournament, you've seen everybody play this year. Ben and Matt and I, we had Mitch Davis on right before you came on, and Dudley Dawson. But from what you've seen so far, you have a favorite or two in this league. And I don't know if you know Buzz Williams, you probably do, but why does he not get the respect that I think he deserves? Because I don't know what it is by the national media. They're penalizing A&M for those early season, not such quality losses, but they're 15-3 in the SEC, and they look like they could, go on a hell of a run.
Well, I think Buzz Williams, I've always said, I think he's one of the top 3 coaches in the league. And it's not like he's coaching at schools that just attract players. I mean, you trace the jobs he's had, except for maybe Marquette. He's had some tough jobs, and he's done well and been successful. So I think he's unique in his approach. And, and I've always liked Buzz, and I followed his career, and I spoke to him after our game here for a long time. And I told him last year I thought he should have been coach of the year. Even though he lost 7 or 8 in a row, he turned that thing around last year and should have made the NCAA tournament, in my opinion. I think Texas A&M is one of the schools that can win this thing. I think Tennessee obviously can win this thing if they can find consistent offense. Everybody loves Alabama because of the way they play, but it goes back to what we talked about earlier. If you rely on shot making, sometimes I think that can come and go. And then even Kentucky, in my opinion, I think they've played better lately. I think they have an opportunity, but I really like Tennessee and A&M's chances here in consecutive games, winning 3 games in a row. I think those 2 teams have the best base, in my opinion, to win it all here.
Yeah, that's a great take on it. Ben, you got another question? We got about 3 minutes left, but say this, folks, go out and help people with the expectation to get nothing in return. And most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us, and we live in the greatest country in the history of the world. You talk about learning a lot. You got Coach Brady, Ben Troupe, Matt Dean. Man, I tell you what, we need to write a book on these roundtables. But Ben, one more question before we go.
Coach, when you think about like the SEC top to bottom, what does it do for the league when a team like Texas A&M is better than people give it credit for, especially when we used to the blue bloods like Kentucky, like Tennessee? What does it do for the league when a team like Texas A&M is playing really, really good basketball?
Well, I think, as you alluded to, I think it shows the depth of the league, I still have my questions about Arkansas and Auburn. And I tell you, another team I like is Missouri. But I think throughout the league, there's some balance. But I think that the depth of the league is very good. And that's why I think you've seen some teams beat some top teams. But I think that the balance is good. And I think it shows the strength and the depth of the league by the way it's gone this year.
Yeah, and the bottom line is, Missouri, that's a team that doesn't get a whole lot of attention. They're kind of out there on the western flank, although they're in the Eastern Division in football. Don't have divisions in basketball. But I just think tournament, bottom line is, it's just a lot of fun. Bucky McMillan and Samford played in the championship again against Furman. That's a program. I think Bucky McMillan's a hell of a coach, but this is just a great time of year. College basketball, the conference tournaments, about to be March Madness, football, spring practice underway, college baseball is underway, all these sports. And Matt, it's a great time for the rites of spring, isn't it? In the office, we're going to do a bracket with all of us on this thing for the tournament. We're going to have a little competition and hold everybody accountable. We got about a minute left, Matt.
Well, the one team I also want to mention, Coach covered everything in the SEC with Ben, but I just want to give some props to Vanderbilt. Coach Stackhouse has done a tremendous job this year. They're 18 wins, I think 10 SEC wins. Yeah. And I don't know if they're going to win a SEC tournament game or not, but I just think they've really turned the corner and they've played some really good basketball down the stretch, and they're playing their best basketball at the right time. So Vanderbilt's had a tremendous year too. And I think the SEC top to bottom is pretty darn deep. And looking forward, this is a March Madness like no wonder. We're going to be able to see there's about 15 to 20. Anyone that gets in is going to have a chance. There's not a dominant team out there, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I agree. And Coach Brady, give me right now the best team in the country you think going into the tournament. One or two teams.
What was that again?
The two best teams in America right now.
Oh man, I could tell. I guess you have to. I like Houston. I don't know if offensively they're good enough. but I've always liked Bill Self and his teams in tournament time. For some reason, they seem to win every close game down the stretch. But I think there's a lot of parity at the top. I think there are 4 or 5 teams that can win a national championship. And I agree with you. It's going to be an exciting NCAA tournament because there's no really clear-cut favorite. But I'm going to go with the 2 old crafty coaches at Houston and then Bill Self at Kansas. I think those 2 guys find ways to win, and we'll just see how it plays out.
All right. Hey, great show. I want to thank everybody, all our listeners and everybody. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, have a great one. We are out of here.